Think about it. Every hiring decision is a choice that can make or break a team, a culture, and even an entire company. So how do we make the right choice? Hi, I'm Dr. Mickey, and welcome to Inside the Mind of Hiring. Here we'll uncover the psychology and strategy behind effective hiring, because the right fit isn't just about skill or experience. It's about understanding people, their motivations, their strengths, and the shadows of their shortcomings. Together, we'll tackle the tough questions. How do we look beyond bias? How do we find the qualities that make people not just qualified hires, but the right hires? This is about identifying leaders who drive success, lift morale, and actualize a company's vision. Inside the Mind of Hiring starts now. And our episode title today is the 2026 Executive or the 2026 Leader. And so as a result of COVID and technology shifts, there have been some major changes for executive hiring that executives need to consider, especially if they're seeking jobs. I've actually studied some of the writings of search firms, executive search firms. So they're directly in the market and they're responding to the market, and they're also writing about it, which is quite interesting. Firms like Spencer Stewart is one that I know very well. Mm-hmm. Christian and Timbers was another firm that was cited by that is writing and analyzing this issue, and N2 Growth. Spencer Stewart. Dr. Pat, do you know another one? I think you turned me on to one, but I can't think of either.
I think McKinsey. I look at some of the McKinsey reports that come out. Yeah, I find them very interesting. And then there's a couple that come out very specifically that are geared towards market trends. But when you step back and you look at it all, things have changed. That's the bottom line. And it's not like we had a decade for them to change. So what was really interesting, I was listening to a show not too long ago, and they went through the range of, it took 100 years to do this. I think it was from a horse to an engine. I don't know, something like that. Then it took 30 years to go from this to this. Then it took 10 years to go from this to this. And then it took 3 months to go from where we were to AI taking over. And you can't tell me that has not changed the landscape of hiring.
It sure has. And I'm going to be getting into that as an element.
Cool.
But the major changes, they don't talk about it. They do talk about AI a fair amount, but in terms of the changes, there's been a hybrid leadership is a reality today. It's just there. So we're going to talk about that as part of this. We're going to talk about a stronger focus on your personality, interestingly enough, versus your tenure and experiences. And there's more of a focus on that today. And growth in shorter term leadership models. So there's a growth in more flexible and shorter term leadership models. And so what we want to answer today is, what factors are being emphasized in executive hiring for 2026, and how can executive job seekers position themselves in the best way possible? Okay, so we want to help companies, we want to help job seekers, right? So let's talk about hybrid leadership.
Yeah, I think we need to explain it to people.
Yeah, so the mix of working at home and in the office, and blending that, it's a blend, a mix of working at home and in the office, almost at any level, is actually shown, it's here to stay. And you want to know why? Because it's shown productivity and results and retention benefits. So it's working. It's very good. So today's executives must kind of lead across locations, blending digital and most importantly, social savvy to
Hmm.
foster people's engagement and to build team and strategic alignment. They got to be thinking about that. Now there's a lot of executives that always had to work in dispersed situations, but now it's even more pronounced. It's more pronounced. You can't physically get people together in the office. You can't talk to people, but because of Zoom, which is a technological advance and other video conference modalities or media, you can do that more easily, but it takes a certain or different skill or different set of skills or enhanced skills to be able to keep people involved and engaged and happy and excited and aligned, in this kind of environment. So that's one key factor. The other key factor are traits versus tenure and experience. Companies today want executives or leaders to have a good amount of emotional intelligence. They want you to have a really good personality. And this this is they also want, and it's part of your personality, but they also want you to be adaptive.
Hmm.
Adaptability is key. And they want your why, which we've talked about in previous episodes, or your purpose, your fundamental purpose to be aligned with the company's purpose. These are three issues, and they're basically traits that people or companies, when they're hiring, going out and the search firms, and I'm evaluating people, are looking for in today's executives. Okay. And hiring managers explicitly are saying that emotional intelligence, which is broken down, let's talk about that for a second.
Hmm.
Self awareness, being aware of yourself, um, self management or regulation, um, self management or regulation, and social awareness, which is part of emotional intelligence, and relationship management, how you manage relationships, is a top predictor of leadership success, a top predictor. That's what they're all saying, especially in times of change. And we got a lot of that going on right now, more than ever. And it's probably going to continue, just as you described, Dr. Pat.
Hmm.
If 100 years, 50 years, 30 years, 30 minutes,
Yeah.
it's happening. And that's why emotional intelligence is so critical, because people you can't be just dragged into it. They've got to
Yeah.
be coaxed and coached, and they got to be part of that change.
Yeah.
And hiring managers are looking for that in their executive or leadership talent that they're
Yeah.
recruiting and evaluating. Okay. And the formal research also says that high EI or emotionally intelligent leaders boost tenure, performance, and engagement. And we can define engagement as I defined it in a few episodes ago. It's people that think like owners and act like owners. Those are engaged employees that think like owners and act like owners.
Yeah.
And that is becoming more important than anything about you. Now, you got to have some baseline experiences um, to qualify, but you're going to have high emotional intelligence to be selected for a job.
Yeah.
And we talked about last week being qualified for an interview, an actual interview. That's also going to be a factor in getting you qualified for an
Yeah.
actual in-person
And then, Dr.
intensive
Mickey,
interview.
don't you think, though, along with all of that, the systems in a company have to adjust? Because I have gone through the whole act like an owner scenario.
Right.
So there's a part on the senior team and the executives of the company to put the money where the mouth is. If you're going to act like an owner, you need to be rewarded as such. And I
Right.
think, these are the kinds of changes that, when you're looking for these kind of people, it's not just about finding them, it's about trying to figure out how to keep them, right?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I mean, but from a leadership standpoint, we all know leaders want to be compensated and executives want to be compensated. They typically are. Um, the middle managers, the directors, and the rest of the workforce, they're generally, unless it's an ownership company, um, it's still possible to inspire people to take ownership
Yeah.
without paying them like owners. Really, it really
Oh,
is
of
possible.
course it is.
Yeah,
Yes. And isn't it because of what you just talked about? You have to hire the people that know how to do that.
that's
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you can if you want to really get that kind of inspiration out of your team, then you have to be that person that maybe comes down and says hi to them in the lunchroom. I mean, that's an example, but that's part of what you're talking about. It isn't anymore just about, yeah, you look great on paper.
Yeah,
But, do you ever keep your door open? When do you keep your
yeah,
door open? Do I have to go through three assistants to get to you? I mean, right? So
right.
this is also like, I hate to say it, but giving executives a personality facelift here.
Absolutely. That's a really good way to describe it. You see that commercial with this guy? I forget what commercial it is, but it's probably advertised. He's walking around with a cell phone and he's getting all this data on his employees and he's walking up to him and says, "Hey, congratulations for being here for 10 years." And she sits up in her chair with this big smile. And, and he says to somebody else that's operating is operating a
Yeah,
machine. He said, "You're due for some training. You better take that training." And the
yeah,
guy,
right,
yeah, guy saying,
right.
how does he know that?
Yeah, it's like moving around with a front loader. Um,
Yeah,
but I think what we're talking about here is so significant. I mean, traits versus tenure versus experience. Now, of course, in this conversation, we're going to leave out the whole academic system. We're not even going to talk about the academic system
no,
because
no,
they
no.
operate differently. But you're talking about businesses that are trying to find a solution. Okay, here you go, Dr. McKay. I want you to talk about the flexibility of leadership models and as we move forward. But we have in the United States of America a major problem in our entertainment industry. Major, because we haven't figured out how to create movies that people will actually go to the theater to watch, right? And and so I was listening to a little debate, and somebody said, "Well, why do I go to movies to if I could stream them?"
Mhm.
Well, yes, but is that really the problem? You see, is that really the problem? Have we lost our touch with how to
Right.
emotionally inspire people to get in the car and go see that movie that is not going to be streaming for another 6 months?
Yeah.
And there's no dialogue on it. We keep switching
Right.
CEOs and executives and media companies, and none of them have an answer.
Right. Well, well, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Dr.
Good,
Pat,
good
but it
thing you're
might,
not in that business of
yeah,
hiring those guys,
yeah,
those people,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
good
but
thing.
maybe it's a matter of delaying when they're shown when they can stream them a little bit longer,
Yeah.
and advertising them so people
Yeah. Yeah,
properly so
you're
people want
never
to
going to
come to the
tell the
movie.
top streaming companies
Yeah,
that because not only are they making
right.
gazillions on them, but they found a way to make blockbuster
Yeah,
movies.
and so are the people that are making the movies. They're
Exactly.
taking advantage of streaming services, but it's one of those things, Dr. Pat, that I hate the idea of seeing movies close. But the good news is the theaters will probably stay open. Because you can't stream theater
I know, but this is a perfect
to a
executive
point. You can't.
opening, right?
Yeah,
I
right,
mean, this is just one area where there is a conundrum, but we have many, many areas like that where leadership really does need to have a personality facelift or
right.
something,
No
um,
question.
because you're introducing more flexible leadership model,
Yeah,
right?
I mean there's got to be more people that are really good with people. I mean that's what it boils down to, and to think about people as a key element in of all types and of all stripes in terms of who they hire and in terms of their business strategy. It's got to be important, just like AI has to be important
Yeah,
consideration of business strategy, and we'll get to that. But there are some more effective leadership models occurring, and they're occurring more frequently. And a lot of it can be public companies, but a lot of it revolves around PE firms that are considered very adaptive by nature. I mean, they're firms that buy and own and develop a few to several to numerous companies at a given time. And they're typically in the middle market, and maybe they range from 10 million in sales to several $100 million in sales. And what they often need are people that can come in on a project basis and operate within the organizational structure, not as consultants, but
No.
as interim executives to run, develop, and run really important business projects that could relate to marketing, finance, IT, of course, and other functions, and even in an integrated sense, and make those projects work effectively and profitably for those companies so that they really get the return on investment from those projects. And there are part-time CEOs that a business owner or founder might hire if he or she is maybe incapacitated temporarily, or PE firms, want to hire these people, let's say, because the owner doesn't want to stick around after they bought the company. And they don't think maybe the owner can carry them. So they want to hire somebody on a quick but interim basis to perhaps experiment with what they can do. So it may be an opportunity for that person that maybe likes change or likes to be considered a hired gun, or a functional expert, to come in and run a project or run a total company on a short-term basis and develop the reputation in that private equity firm to run other portfolio companies or run other projects if you're a functional expert. And these can open up a lot of opportunities for executives and functional experts. And they do it to, as I say, maybe experiment with new roles or new people, and to avoid maybe the full-time or long-term risks of compromising their culture, let's say. They want to avoid that. So they experiment with this stuff. But the good news for executives and or functional broad-based executives like total company executives, CEOs, presidents, and functional executives, they can come in and make a difference, and they'll be a known and wanted high-demand commodity, especially in that private equity world. So that's something to consider, and it's but you best be adaptive to be able to do that. And that's one of the traits that companies, the personality traits that companies I just said previously, that companies are looking for is adaptability.
Now let's go through the 2026 executive and see what a facelift needs to look like for some of these folks.
Okay.
What is the 2027, excuse me, I'm already out there. Yeah. By the time 2027 comes, y'all better be having this down, right?
Right.
Because this is what this is what's being called for. Why don't you take us through that list?
Okay. So they're focusing on your future capacity or capability rather than your past performance. So you want to talk about your past performance, but you want to highlight what you can do for that company and where you can take them in the future. So you got to get to know them and talk about strategic ideas with them that you have. You can't act dumb about things like that. You have to come in with some kind of opinion about where you want to take that company. And in so doing, you have to promote your personality and style as it relates to taking them into the future. That's really important because that's what they're emphasizing right now. You have to promote your ability to manage or navigate complexity and embrace technology and the strategic advantage or value of AI. Okay, and I want to get a little more specific as we move down this list. They want leadership sophistication over operational command. Okay, so put your nuts and bolts hat, take it off, and start talking and acting like a leader in the interviews. Okay, they want to know maybe that you have operational pedigree, but you don't want to emphasize that. You want to emphasize your leadership sophistication. Okay. And in so doing, you want to emphasize your strategic agility, your ability to shift direction, fundamental direction when it's important. And that you've done that, whether you're running a function, a key function, or whether you're the CEO candidate. So you got to talk about pivot capability here. Okay. And in the best interest of the business, not you're just pivoting every second. It's fundamental pivot. Okay. Fundamental pivot. You want to talk about and have stories about how you can and have communicated across regions, functions, and generations, and how you sustain strategic focus and your connection with people, during that process. Okay. And this is important now. Think about this. You got to know AI as a leadership language that you incorporate into your reasoning about where you're at and where you want to go, into your decisions about where you're at, where you want to go, and your communication in terms of where you're at and where you want to go, and shaping the culture that's the underlying aspects that drive where you're at and where you want to go. Okay.
I think that is so important what you're talking about, because here's the thing. It's more important than you and I could even articulate. And, you and I have done shows where people are losing their jobs. That's not the AI that's now popping up now. And I just want to say one thing, and let's finish this, because it's relating to data fluency, which you're going to talk about next, and communication. Right. There was an idea that popped out with AI that this one guy could not get any media company's attention, but literally gave the idea, and I can't mention their names, but the top media people that own everything, said to them a year ago, the people want to be able to manipulate, don't laugh at me, Dr. Mickey, to manipulate the end of the movie. They want you to put an AI on, put an AI on, and then they want the ability to tell the AI how they want the end of the movie to be different.
Isn't that interesting?
It's a great idea. But in order to do that, don't you have to communicate? Don't you have to know AI language beyond just what is my chat going to tell me? So what we're talking about is that kind of stuff.
That's really cool. Or not. That's really cool.
It is cool. The dude couldn't get anybody's attention. I think he developed it on his own.
Right. But so I saw a series that ended like that just last night, that we were conjecturing about where it's going to go. It's like it could go in 10 different directions, and it's probably won't going to. Yeah. Really one of those compelling and interesting series, the way it ended.
Well, you know what he based it on? Okay, there were two movies he based it on, and one of them actually has an alternative. One was I Am Legend, which is a zombie movie, but the other was Titanic.
Oh, wow.
That he based it on his mother's absolute emotional breakdown that the dude died. But you see, isn't this the kind of leadership we're talking about, to really get out there? It isn't just about, let me read the data. Once upon a time, wasn't it all about data? So take us through the rest. Because purpose-driven has to be connected to the market.
Thank you for the lead-in. But I want to go just touch on AI for a second. They don't want executives just to be able to operate AI as a tool. They want them to be able to integrate it through their reasoning and their proposals and their communication capability into the rubric of the business. That's what they want to do. And that's the AI fluency that was now required for executives and leaders. They got to be able to do that. Now, what you said is, they also want leaders, and this is like in two basic parts, to be purpose-driven executives, or they want purpose-driven leadership. So values are really important. You have to have values that do relate to inclusion. You have to include people in decisions that impact them more than ever right now. And you have to empower people to accomplish end results independently. You have to express yourself as a leader that can do that. And it's including people. I'm sorry that the federal government put such a kibosh on what are they? Diversity, equity, inclusion, because a lot of businesses are sticking to that model because it's worked for them. So fundamentally, including people from different stripes can really benefit a business in many different ways because your customers have a lot of different stripes. Hello. And, you really do. It's really important to, you don't have to do everything they say, but you do have to make them feel genuinely involved in decisions that are impacting them, or any decision that the company is making. And you can't get absorbed in the methodology of what they're doing. You have to encourage them to That's why you have people to use their own methodology to accomplish the results that you want. So you really do have to empower them, and you have to talk about how you can do that. People want executive leaders today that work on the business, not in the business. They want them to emphasize the what's, not the hows.
Yeah.
Okay. It's end results over methods, everybody. Don't be so damn hands-on. You have to be visible, of course, but you got to enable your people to run the business and achieve end results without your direct involvement.
Yeah, you don't have to be in the call center trying to answer the phones all the time, but it would be for you to go down to the call center and see what you go with.
Sure.
Dr. Mickey, thank you so much for today. Look, this is just the beginning of bigger conversations, because lack of awareness at the executive level is not going to fare well here.
Right. It's not.
Now, it's not. How do we find out more about you? And I love that alternate ending idea. How do we get a hold of you? How do people hire you so that they can make the proper decision when hiring? What's the best way?
Well, you can look up my website, www.deltaconsultants.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn. My profile's there, and all these shows get featured, and we post a lot about these shows, which is Dr. Mickey Fineberg, Fineberg. And you can email me, everybody, at Mickey, Mickey, at deltaconsultants.com. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Dr. For those of you out there, if you just want to know, the poll that was taken about the ending of all time that people wanted to see changed was Game of Thrones. Thank you all for tuning us in and turning us on. Yeah. You don't kill a dragon.
That's it. That's a great way to do AI.
Or the Dragon Queen. We'll see you next time.
You have been listening to Inside the Mind of Hiring with me, Dr. Mickey Fineberg. Tune in the first and third Tuesday at 11 on Transformation Talk Radio to discover the psychology of making successful hiring decisions. In each episode, hiring managers and HR pros will learn how to leverage assessments and other key screening sources and avoid common pitfalls. Job seekers will gain insight into successfully presenting themselves. For more information on assessing people for mission-critical jobs and on career assessment and coaching, visit deltaconsultants.com and my LinkedIn profile. If you'd like to write me personally, it's Mickey, Mickey, at deltaconsultants.com.